franchise.
That's morbid AF, man.
Yeah, and that's John. And but like,
I can just see the excitement on Lenny's face because he's like, and then this happened.
I like when dark things happen. I'm not a morbid person. I swear.
You're the queen of Berger,
and I think that's great for like Vertigo, for like the dark storyline. But I also think if you're gonna for bridging John into sort of the mainstream DC world, kind of being part of Justice League Dark, I can understand why they want to tone that down a bit, because at the end of the day, you do have 8-year-old children reading this stuff. Like,
just tell them to stay away.
Like they are going to be like younger kids or younger preteens, whatever it is, are going to be reading this stuff, and I think that it's fine to have dark, heavy material for young people, but it's like you got to temper it.
A little.
Like I teach a class on the side, and I had a kid come in who talked about how his favorite character was Walter White, and when Breaking Bad was on, he must have been like 10. So I was like, how are your parents letting you watch this at 10?
That's the same thing as Lenny. I was hanging out at Planet Hobby one time, and Phil was telling me that the latest toy that was sold was to this, I guess he was like 9 or 10 or something like that, but a Deadpool toy because Deadpool was his favorite character. And I'm like, that guy's nothing but filth. Like, how is this kid...
And granted, you know, like, I think there are some really awesome parents out there that can watch these things with their kids and sort of explain the dark elements, but at the same time, too, there are certain things that I think kids will go over kids' heads and they won't fully grasp. So I'm okay with, like, sanitized John Constantine existing as much as, like, the Hellblazer adult John Constantine, because eventually those kids that start off seeing Constantine being like, oh, he does magic, that's so cool, when they're like 18 and they're like, I want to really read his stuff, they're going to be even more mind blown because they're going to be like, this is amazing.
So there should be Justice League Dark and then Justice League After Dark.
That just sounds like porn. Swamp Thing, I want your Swamp Thing. Well, you know what? I kind of, like, if there were two separate lines in which, like, there's age-appropriate John Constantine, and there's one where it's just fucked up in the head John Constantine, then I would kind of like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what...
long as...
And I think that ultimately is with the writers, right? Like, because comics... That's sort of the beauty of comic books, is they allow... TV shows too, to a degree, but I think with comics especially... There are writers that can, like, you take on a character, and essentially, if you want to, you can smash up elements of the character that people know and love and put it together into something new. So I think with that is where we get those different explorations of the characters. So you can get sanitized John and, like, crazy effed up John, and maybe even, like, gender bent John. Like, I don't know. Like, whatever.
Joanna Constantine. Oh, that did exist, though.
Oh, really?
He had an ancestor named Joanna Constantine. I didn't read that, though.
Johanna, because I know someone pretty important in my life, Johanna.
Who?
That would be I.
Who's I?
Me.
Oh!
My first name is
Not
Joanna.
Correct pronouns. No, I'm joking. I knew that.
So another question that I wanted to ask you guys as well is, we already have a pretty packed Justice League. I mean, you've got Brains, you've got Muscle, you've got Detectives, Zatanna is in Justice League sometimes even. Justice League the show, she was there a lot. What's up? Like, do we need a Justice League Dark, or could we just kind of just do Justice League?
I think you can do Justice League Dark. Like, I think there's room for it in the sense that it is, like, I look at it more like it would be more interesting to make that in and of itself, like a darker storyline that might be focused a little bit more on magic or on the things that cannot be confronted in traditional ways. And that gives opportunity for lots of different characters to sort of evolve in that space. Because we don't always want, like, the solution to be like, well, punch him! Like, because that works only so often. So I feel like that's what Justice League Dark is supposed to be, is that space, and then also to just add elements of horror, like if in DC, Warner Brothers, I hope you're listening, if
comicslink.ca
but if you're listening, like, I think for me, if JL Dark ever becomes a film, I want it to be a horror movie first and foremost. That just happens to
It's going to be the first group movie where you guys have to sit me in the middle and bring blankets.
Like, I want to be scared, and I think if anything, it recently kind of proved that as a film that you can do like horror and include elements of comedy, include elements of just like character development and those kinds of things, and still have a horror movie.
Make it interesting. Yeah.
That's what I think JL Dark should be. It should be it happens to have some heroes in the sense of the word fighting these supernatural elements, but there should be not even fighting,
just
like,
running away, because like how do you do this?
Trying to do what they can, but like it has to be scary. Like
yeah.
And that's what I didn't like about the second half of Justice League Dark. It's just like, this is clearly a threat that you can fight. Like, Felix Faust is just some skinny-ass looking ass dude with a wrinkly ass that you can just punch his ass.
He's just human, right?
Yeah.
But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, I think if you're a writer that sees Felix Faust as a human where, okay, if I just punch the dude in the thing, or can Felix Faust have, like, summon a minion, summon these things, whatever. Do something, like astral project himself. I don't know, but there's he's a magician, so can he not conjure or summon things that can, in his place, be horrifying?
That's right, yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, yes, the conclusion is take out the guy, but can he not summon something that you have to kind of get through first to get to him?
A demon.
So.
Well, yeah, that's exactly the thing, because as I was growing up, I also kind of found that there's different types of superheroes. You know, you're not going to call the Green Arrow to take care of something in Sector 2814. You're going to call the other green guy.
Oh.
You know? And you're not going to call Clark just because there was a robbery. I mean, mind you, he might already be there, but there's certainly other street heroes that are better for that role. Yeah. And just as that,
they need jobs.
Everybody needs jobs.
They took our jobs. Superman took our jobs.
They have specializations, and I think with that too, like magic and almost like the supernatural has always been a part of like the human conscious in terms of stories and stuff. And I think it's really great to see that play out on a platform within sort of a superhero's tale, and like see these heroes use magic to like overcome their enemies and do things like that.
Or just outsmart them.
Or whatever the case may be. Like I think that is what Justice League Dark really should be focused on, is just creating that space where it's just not really the traditional, we gotta punch and fight our way through. And I'm not saying I'm not against punching, because I think
we're all about the punching.
Etrigan is like fantastic when he gets to throw like a flaming punch or doing things like that. But that should be really tempered with like, you know, the other elements of it.
Anything that John's good at, because he ain't a fighter. He will just like go like, oh, hey, you want to punch me? Well, this is your daughter. She's about to go to hell unless if you just don't touch me right now.
Or a good example is actually from the 2017 movie is when, you know, John gets into a fight with these three demons, and they're like coming after him with weapons and stuff.
They're demons.
And so what he does is he compels Jason Blood to transform into Etrigan, so Etrigan has to fight the demons while John goes and like hides behind the bar.
He's like that guy at work that takes way too many like smoke breaks.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to actually like execute a project or implement something, he's like, I mean, you know,
like he finds one way or another to sort of weasel out of something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, have you? Can I spoil Dangerous Habits?
Of course.
Okay, I didn't
Spoiler,
get in course.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, sick. So my favorite thing that John ever did is that, okay, as I mentioned earlier, he was once dying of lung cancer, and he did a thing in which like he saved his friend's life, and then as a result, his soul is now damned to hell. He's like, oh, dude, what do I do? And so he does the most cleverest thing. He sells his soul to two other demons of hell, and then like slits his wrist, and they all come to him and go like, well, now I come to take your soul. No, he's mine. And the other one's like, he promised me. And they're like, okay, so we know that if I try to take your soul, you guys are going to fight me. But if you take his soul, then I'm going to fight you. There's always going to be conflict, and then hell would break loose, and we won't have kingdoms anymore. So we have no choice but to let you go and cure you of your lung cancer. And that was amazing.
And that's it.
That's really wily. Like,
and you know, well, we are going to get into some reading recommendations at the end of the podcast. Because that was actually really good. I'm kind of like, you know what? Do you have that book? No.
I read it from the library. The other reason why I read a lot of Vertigo is because it's free at the library. Check out your library.
That's right.
Guys.
I have my library book with me today. I recently just started going. And shout out to Shane. Shane, we miss you. Come back. And of course, the other thing I wanted to talk about is that there's a new project, as you guys are reading, Justice League Dark. Talk a little bit about the new trade paperbacks that you have there with you.
Okay, the trade paperbacks aren't the new ones. It's not out yet. Okay. Or do you want me to talk about the new thing coming out?
The new thing coming out, because
so
that's pretty exciting.
Yes.
The new thing coming out, so this is after Scott Snyder's Dark Knight Metals. He's going to be doing for May Justice League No Justice to kind of blow up the DC universe again and rejig everything. And then coming out of that event series is going to be 3 new Justice League lineups. So we're going to have the core Justice League Odyssey, which is a group of Leaguers who are out in space doing space stuff. I'm not going to spoil that, but the lineup is crazy.
Generically space stuff.
Yeah, generically space stuff. And then there's going to be the Justice League Dark team, and they're revamped with the new leader, who is like my favorite all-time hero, Wonder Woman.
I thought it was Detective Chimp.
But I think the reason why is obviously because Wonder Woman's super popular right now as a character, and also her ties to magic makes her a really great focal point, I guess, to put in a main leaguer into the team.
Instead of Batman?
Womp, womp, womp.
But she's going to be joined by Swamp Thing, Zatanna, Detective Chimp, Man-Bat, and they are saying potentially, I think John Constantine's also going to make his return on the team.
And as you see on the cover, that Detective Chimp is holding a sword, and if you remember from Dark Knight's Metal, Nightmaster dies and his sword is stuck through his head. And now Detective Chimp and Nightmaster were actually a team back in Shadow Pact. So I think that's
that sword?
Yeah, that sword.
The
Sword of Night. And so you'll have this immortal monkey detective dude wielding a sword. I don't know if he can use one.
He has opposable thumbs.
But like, I can't use a sword.
If I can do it,
wow, why are you doubting his like abilities?
Because
that's not cool.
Okay, he was trained in the circus.
Anyways, kind of to add to that, so the series is going to be written by James Tynion IV, the art's going to be by Alvaro Martinez. So that's going to be, I think, a really interesting new take on the Dark series. Have no idea what their plans are for it. But
how excited are you though with Zatanna and Wonder Woman
being on the same team?
Yeah.
I'm so excited, and like it's not like Wonder Woman won't be on the regular Justice League team. So basically, I'm gonna get double Justice League.
Oh,
and
I know.
My bank account's gonna hurt a little bit, but whatever, it's totally worth it.
I'm gonna say something controversial here. Does she really belong in a magic team? She deals with magic. She's magical.
Or Wonder Woman?
She wields magic items. She's a magical person.
You know what? I think really it depends on how you treat her origins and sort of like where she's from. I mean, in her most traditional sense of like her origins, or like the best one, which was created by George Perez, where magic breathes life into her. She was made from clay. Magic from all the different goddesses breathes life into her, and she becomes a living being. And even with the more revamped version of her, where she's Zeus's daughter, I think that's
even more so.
I think that even brings in more of a sense of magic, because she's able to wield Zeus's lightning. Like, she's able to kind of conjure that stuff up. And if anybody's reading the current Brave and the Bold run, which is Batman and Wonder Woman's team up, they really focus on the fact that she understands sort of the mythical realms, that she understands these magical creatures.
Yeah, and Batman doesn't know shit about that.
No. Yeah, he ain't no shit. Why was he in the movie? Well, okay, I get why. Because Batman. But like, can she hold her own against, like, say, Satan?
I think so. I mean, like, if she can fight Ares, if she can fight, like, in other versions, she's, fighting Hades. Like, I think she can totally hold her own. And like, I think most people's credits, they haven't seen that side of Wonder Woman where she plays the diplomat and she uses a lot of her strategy and her skills in that area.
That I can see her using in a dark context, not so much the sword.
Yeah, like, I think the dark context, and I really hope that that's the intent, is that Wonder Woman is really just going to be the leader and sort of knowing how to play her team and being
also
the
like
strategy
the
person.
Moral compass as well.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to be there, for sure.
Like,
so she's going to be telling John, like, no, stay away. No, stop manipulating them, you ass.
She's going to be Wonder Mom a little bit.
Yeah, she probably will end up being kind of the mom.
She's the sensible girlfriend.
But,
I'm
super excited.
I'm excited because Swamp Thing, and, like, he looks like Alan Moore.
I
He's
know,
got the
he
long
does
hair and the
with
beard.
yeah,
And then,
exactly.
like, just everything's a kick in the balls from DC to Alan, where it's like, hey, we're using Tom Strong, we're using your